No, good. I'm sorry.
Good morning, everyone. We are live. We will start promptly at 9:30. So at this time, get your coffee, your breakfast, and good morning. Good morning, everyone. If you see Nancy Northrop, please let her in. I asked her to come on the platform. And Liani is also a guest speaker. Please let them in. So good morning, everyone. The time is now 9:30. Welcome to another beautiful sunny day. CPAC monthly April meeting. Today is April 14th, and we have our virtual meeting, and we have a special guest speaker this morning. Is our executive board. And we're going to start off again to remind everyone what our meeting procedures and standing rules here. I'm going to introduce our parliamentarian, Marie Plaisir. She is going to go over the meeting procedures and standing rules. Marie, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair Aubin. Good morning, CPAC and guests. Welcome. CPAC meeting procedures and standing rules are to ensure that our CPAC meetings are run smoothly, fairly, and in compliance with our CPAC's bylaws. We ask that you respect the following procedures and adaptations. Please do not speak until recognized by the chairperson or persons who will be assisted in managing the meeting by our parliamentarian. Please limit your comments, questions to 2 minutes to ensure we have the maximum participation by the greatest number of representatives present. The parliamentarian will be monitoring the time allotted. Remember that the order of speakers, as per our bylaws, is A, first the executive board, B, our voting members, C, non-voting members, if there is time and they are recognized by the co-chairs and assisted by the parliamentarian. We want to make sure that we hear from as many people as possible during the course of the meeting. Therefore, there will be times when we do not call on someone who has just spoken. Please understand this is an attempt at fairness. All voting members have first seating preference at the table when we are in person and virtually when we're on Zoom, as we are right now. Membership must be clearly identified by displaying the membership identification plaque when we are in person, and or their district number by renaming yourselves on the Zoom participant listing reflecting the district that you represent. Please know that if the president is not present of the council at the table and on Zoom, the designee is the voted representative for that district and is able to vote on matters of the membership. Alternates must have written notice from the President's Council's presidents or designee or an email sent to CPAC at infocpacnyc and focpacnyc@gmail.com, indicating they can speak and vote on behalf of their districts. For the purpose of voting on any CPAC business, only the voting member or designee of your district who is eligible to vote shall be seated at the table and or virtually on Zoom. And for additional information of our meeting rules and procedures, please refer to CPAC's bylaws, which is available upon request. Our copy is available on the website at www.cpacnyc.com. And of course, Robert's Rule of Order, newly revised, RNR for short, is the parliamentary authority used to govern unless it's inconsistent with the CPAC's bylaws. Madam Chair Aubin.
Thank you. So in summary, please wait till you're recognized. Please rename yourself and put the district or the council that you represent in front of your name. We want to be respectful and courteous at all times and to be present here and limit side conversations. That includes in the chat.
Let me get my headphones.
And we're gonna ask everybody who are not speaking at this time to mute themselves, please. So today's agenda is a little switched. So President Mogru is speaking at 10:45. At 11 o'clock is our Deputy Chancellor Quintana, Teaching and Learning. And our special guest speaker at 11:30 is the Honorable New York City Mayor, Eric Adams. At this time, we're going to review the minutes. Everyone received the documents that will be shared on the screen. So to take a few minutes at this time to review our minutes.
Miserable now. Oh,
Yeah, he looks so cute though, right?
he does look cute. Miserable but cute.
When my cat got it,
P24, can you mute yourself, please? Now we're reviewing the minutes. I'm gonna take roll call. So is District 2 present? District 4? District 6?
Present.
Thank you, Louis. Good morning.
Morning.
District 8? District 10?
Good morning, everyone. Maria Villalobos present.
Good morning. District 12? District 12? District 14? District 14?
Present.
Thank you. District 16? District 16? District 18?
Present, Keisha Sidney.
District 20?
Present.
District 1? District 3?
present.
All right. District 5?
Yeah,
Thank you. Good morning. District 7? District 7? District 9? District 9? District 11?
So sorry, District 9 is present.
Thank you. District 11? District 11? District 13? District 13? District 15? District 15? District 17? District 19? District 19? Staten Island?
Present. You talking about stat?
Queens is here. Manhattan High Schools?
Present.
Bronx High Schools? Bronx High Schools? Brooklyn High Schools?
Good morning, present.
Good morning. District 75?
Here, good morning.
Good morning. District 32?
Present.
Good morning. District 31? District 31? I think I saw her. Come
I
back.
believe it's Ms. Gomez, Madam Chair.
Say it again.
She's not, okay.
Okay. All right. So no 30, 29, District 29? '21.
Present.
Thank you. District 23? I think I saw.
Present.
Thank you. District 25? Francis?
Present.
Here, added in the chat as well.
Present.
Present.
Can you hear?
Uh-huh, we could hear you. District
Okay, thanks.
27? Is Lisa here?
No, Madam Chair, not yet.
District 22?
Good morning.
Good morning. District 24? I thought Maddie's here. District 26? I think I saw her.
Good morning.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm here. Sorry. D24
No,
is here.
apologize. Good morning. District
Good morning.
28?
Present. Good morning.
Good morning. So I'm gonna go back real quick. Is Leonard here? District 2? Okay, District 4? I thought I saw Rashida. Rashida's not here?
Yes, she was.
She's still here. She
Okay,
District 4 is in attendance, yes.
District 16? District 1? 11? 13? 15? 17? 19? 31? 30? 29? And 27. Just let me know when they're present. We'll put the attendance sheet in the chat. I think everybody had enough time to review the minutes. Would like someone make a motion to adopt our minutes?
I make a motion to adopt the minutes.
Thank you, Andrea. Sabina,
I second. I second. I second.
thank you so much. And so at this time, we are going to do the resolution regarding the Board of Regents to show flexibility with the results of the upcoming June Regents. Just take a few minutes to review this resolution. And then we're going to ask someone when they're ready to make a motion to adopt this letter to the New York State Board of Regents. Anyone would like to make the motion to move to adopt the letter?
Can I make the motion?
Sure.
I would like to make a motion to adopt the letter for the Board of Regents.
And I second it.
All right. Thank you so much. District 75 and District 3. And before the next one is about the reinstatement of the 2019-2020 Blue Book. And before we adopt this resolution, we have Nancy Northrop, who is the co-chair of the CPAC High School Committee. So we have a clearer picture of what we are adopting to approve. I'm going to ask Nancy to speak about what the Blue Book we're speaking about.
Hi, everybody. This is Nancy. The Blue Book, the formal name of the Blue Book is the Enrollment Capacity and Utilization Report Target Calculation. Everybody calls it the Blue Book because it is brilliant blue. The cover is brilliant blue. And we link in the letter, we link to both the original and the restated Blue Book. What the Blue Book does is it's a real foundational document. Apologize, it's really kind of dry to talk about this, but it gives the numbers for every school in the entire system for basically how many students should be in that school or can be in that school, what enrollment is for every school in New York City, and then a number of whether or not the school is operating over capacity or under capacity. So it's really critically important on two levels. It helps inform enrollment's decision about how many kids to put in our various school buildings and how many and where and how to build new schools. What kind of programs to offer. What grade levels need, what schools at what grade levels need to be put in various parts of the city. So it's dry, it's boring, but it's really important. And in December, they quietly restated the Blue Book. We did this analysis and we only looked at high schools. And the reason we only looked at high schools is because every little bit of data had to be input by hand. It took hours and hours and hours. We think there's similar implications for middle schools, most certainly, but also for elementary schools. So I encourage everybody to look at what the impact is in your own districts. But with a wave of a magic wand, the DOE increased the number of school seats in the system by 20,902 seats. That's the equivalent of building somewhere between 10 and 40 high schools, depending on what size high school you want to talk about. And we think at this point it's critically important to go back to the original. And I'm just going to take 2 seconds more to say when the original process for coming up with the Blue Book numbers involved all the different stakeholders. It involved parents, it involved the teachers union, principals, superintendents, elected officials, outside organizations, regular schools, charter schools. Everybody worked together over a year and a half, looking at every aspect of the formula that they'd used previously, going to schools and visiting various schools to come up with a formula. It was this gargantuan, very transparent process. In contrast, the DOE just snuck this restatement in December. They took off the original. The only reason that I had the original is because I had started to save all the DOE documents to my computer. So they did it very quietly, didn't make an announcement. How many times have we had the DOE on? Nobody talked about this an incredibly important restatement. I can't state that enough. The impact is just so significant. And so we're saying, you know, fine, if you want to restate, then reconstitute the group and let's talk about it again. But until that time, we need to restate the original formula that had been used continuously since the 2014-2015 Blue Book was published. Anyway, that's the quick synopsis of the letter. I apologize, it's dry. We go into the details of what changed, but that's the thrust of it.
Okay, so Nancy, thank you, Nancy. So at this time, everyone again had the documents ahead of time. Anyone who would like to make a motion to adopt this letter?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt this letter.
I second that motion to adopt the letter.
Okay. I know D3, okay, thank you. So we have D3 and 75. Before I continue, anybody has any questions regarding the Board of Regents letter, the letter regarding the restatement of the 2019-2020 Blue Book, or the minutes at this time before we continue? Any objections or concerns? Okay, so thank you so much. We're going to go into a brief announcement. I'm going to ask my co-chair, Randy Garay, to give us some announcements.
Okay, good morning, everyone. In the UFT Parent and Caregivers March 22 newsletter, the women of CPAC were given a shout out during Women's History Month for making a difference in our community. The article was emailed to the membership, and we would just like to thank the UFT for being true partners in our children's education and for recognizing the hard work that we do. We'd also like to announce that the week of April 18th is National Volunteer Week, which coincides with National Public School Volunteer Week. So my co-chair Shirley and I thought it would be nice to have our membership acknowledged by our New York City Council members for demonstrating their commitment and investment in our New York City public school system. The value that we bring to our school communities is priceless. We supplement funds due to constant budget cuts and help bring the fun activities and events in our schools while sharing best practices with parents to help them advocate for all children. So President's Councils, PAs, PTAs are so much more than bake sales. We're healthcare professionals, lawyers, educators, civil servants, stay-at-home moms and dads. We dedicate our time, energy, and resources to invest in our children's education, and we are public school proud. So we'd like to thank our New York City Council members who couldn't agree more for issuing these citations to the CPAC voting members. And we will email all the members to let them know how you'll be receiving your citations. So thank you again, our New York City Council members, for recognizing the value of parent leaders across the city. And we hope to see more recognition in the future.
Thank you. So the last announcement is the live stream coordinator. Tomorrow is the last day to fill out the form, which is found on our website for anyone interested in being CPAC's live stream coordinator. Nominating committee and elections. We would like to take some time if anybody has any questions regarding the nominating committee, because we're in April, so we're full steam ahead for spring elections at this point. Next month, we are going to do training on nominating committee and elections. But anybody who has any questions at this time, today, we can, okay, so we do. So D24, you have your hands up?
Hi, good morning. My question basically regarding nominating committees is who has seen success with getting nominating committees virtually? I know a lot of schools in D24 do not have a lot of success in a regular year. Virtually, it's almost impossible to get a nominating committee. So who here has seen a good turnout for nominating committees, as well as what have you done to see, to get a nominating committee?
Anyone here would like to share? Okay, District 25. Francis?
We usually ask parents who are either graduating out and they're not going to run, because people who are on the nominating committee cannot run. So we ask them if they can just volunteer their time just to be the nominating committee. It can be anywhere from 1 to 3 people. It doesn't have to be a big committee. And I think that's what we do, and we already have ours in place.
Anyone
you.
else? Anyone else would like to share? I will co-sign with Francis. We had our nominating committee nomination meeting this month, last week. Again, some were graduating out, and we had a hybrid nomination meeting. So we had in-person and virtual at the same time for our nomination committee. So we had 3 people for our nomination committee at my school. Anyone? Okay, go ahead, Randy.
So, yes, exactly what Francis said and what Shirley said. We also have our FLC in the district has a nomination committee workshop. So when we ask parents to be on the nominating committee, we let them know that they're going to get support before the elections, and we invite the nominating committee to the workshop where we help them with a script and give them support that they need to run the elections. Because a lot of times parents want to be involved, they just don't know how, and they're just a little bit nervous. So when you have the support and the assistance, they're more willing to get on board and to help out.
That's a good idea. Thank you. That was a good one. A lot of our senior parents kind of checked out by that point, so it's hard to kind of get those back. But definitely a good idea. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there any other questions in regards to nominating committee or elections upcoming? Again, next month, we are going to have a presentation on nominating committees and elections. Okay, so we're going to move on. So CPAC working groups and meetings. So the A655 working group, again, we just remind everyone that we have CPAC representatives on this working group, which the goal is to revise the entire A655. We're not trying to rush through the A655 because we want to get it right the first time around, or as much as possible for the revisions and updates. Again, any suggestions or concerns, or where you feel that the A655 needs to be clarified, please send them in, and we'll bring it back to the working group. So the roundtable conversation, which is now with, I believe, with Lynn Sanchez, one of our members who are on this working group, would like to give update about the roundtable. I'm gonna pick on you, Jimmy, and you're part of that.
Which roundtable are you talking about?
There's only one roundtable, the one with Lynn Sanchez.
Oh, okay.
Did it start? Because I'm not sure if it started.
I don't think that roundtable started. Not with Lynn. No roundtable has started with Lynn.
Okay, I think I saw her come on. Ms. Sanchez, would you like to give an update about the roundtable conversation on when that's going to start?
Is she on?
I keep seeing her flash on my screen. Okay, we'll come back. Jessica, you on that group as well?
I think so, but I don't have anything to report at this time.
All right, so now we're going to the equity working group. I'm gonna ask Marie. I think it's Marie, I think it's Jessica. Equity working group, any updates since the last time y'all met?
Yes, Madam Chair, so just briefly on the equity working group, As it stands right now is just the of figuring out the logistics that comprises of the equity working group. Everyone knows that the D210 actually came from that working group. Right now, it is just trying to figure out the composition of the committee, and also figuring out the work that would be conducted and who would it be directed to. So that's really important. So right now, members along with DOE are trying to figure out from those who are already members. And it was very important to make sure that we have representation throughout the city, and as well as who would be representing from the CCs, and additionally with CPAC, figuring out the numbers that needs to, because everyone does know that, especially when dealing with matters of laws and regulations, in order to being effective, it's very difficult to have a larger group, 40 to 50 members of a working group. You will never be able to get work done. So right now the discussion is mainly about figuring out the composition of the group. Who would it be? How many representative we would have from each, whether from the citywide councils, CECs, and as well as CPAC. So we just simply at a standstill trying to figure that out before we move forward and getting back to the work that we had started, which was around language access or language justice, if you will, as well as educational policies and also corrective action. So just figuring out everything before we move forward.
Thank you. So there's a new working group, Digital Learning and Dyslexia Task Force. After we sent that letter regarding our remote platform, DOE responded that they were going to create a digital learning task force. The email was sent and asked if anybody who would like to join. Only one person replied, but there's 3 people on this task force, but this has not started yet. To my knowledge, they haven't contacted the people who are part of this task force, and it's not just CPAC, it's parent leaders and stakeholders across the city as part of this task force. I know District 13, Ben Green, asked to be on here. He's on the task force for the Digital Learning and Dyslexia Task Force. I believe also Jazzy, District 32 and Bronx High Schools. Is Bronx High Schools here? Is also be on that task force, but it has not started. And again, our letter regarding digital learning, remote platform, when we talk about digital learning, was sent to the Chancellor and his cabinet, and they're taking recommendations and policy concerns from that policy that CPAC recommended as a whole. The citywide CEP template meeting. So the last time we met, again, we reviewed the 2022-2023 Comprehension Education Plan. The principals through Principal Digest receive a copy of the template the end of this month, the beginning of this month. Soon at school, the school leadership team will start talking about goals for next school year goals using this new template. CC's Community and Citywide Education Council Elections Working Group. I'm going to have District 5 at this time to give us updates. She is a part of that working group.
Good morning. We had 2 meetings since our last CPAC meeting. We discussed voting. We had quite a few lengthy conversations about the voting process and what can be changed. And then last week we started talking about campaigning. they're taking our ideas, they're listening. Nothing has been decided yet. We're meeting again in 2 weeks, I believe, or a week, to continue the conversation on campaigning. And then we're adding an extra meeting in May before they try and implement, like go to PEP or set up something to have PEP approved for them to use VoteNet. So that's the basic highlights. Sorry.
No, don't apologize. Thank you so much. So yeah, and we also discussed forums. Do we need to improve them, change them at that election working group? So we'll keep you informed. And again, any of these
out to me to tell me, hey, I'm not available.
Please.
And I already have something I have to do. Yeah. She's
Please
not
mute,
reaching out to me.
Can y'all mute whoever's speaking? Again, anyone who has questions, concerns, or ideas to send to these groups, please email CPAC. District 75, you have your hand up.
I just had a question about the special education working group. It hasn't started yet.
Okay, that's not a working group. That's on the CPAC's committee. We're going to get there.
Okay, you'll let me know then.
No, it's coming up. I'm pretty sure the next slide we're going to make announcements.
All right.
There.
Thank you.
Okay, so our committees are listed on our website. The wellness, the multilingual language learner committee, and the capacity committees have opened up. Signups are on the website. The special education committee, the first committee meeting will be Thursday, April 21st at 7 p.m. And there will be a second meeting April 23rd. That's a Saturday from 12 to 2. CPAC website, so polls and resources. So to balance out the number of emails that we get, so instead of emailing our members, what we would email is posted on the website as posts. On the website, so to limit to, so when you want to see any updates regarding what DOE is doing, admissions, etc., letters from the DOE, they are posted on the website. Again, there's resources, links, email addresses, CPAC meetings are there, the minutes, everything is there on our website for anyone who has any want to know what is going on, what had happened. And again, you could always email us or questions you have regarding to what's going on with CPAC. District 24, you have your hands up. You have a question?
Hey, really quick, how do we know if we are part of a committee? Because I know I filled out several times, several Google forms, but I've never heard officially if we're part of a committee or not. Am I missing something?
No, your Google group, each committee has a Google group email. The chair, the temporary assigned chair will email everyone for when those meetings starts. I think I saw, for wellness, so they will email when the meeting starts. So if you don't hear anything from them, everybody who signed up will automatically get an email when the meeting and the meeting links. So those.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any more questions in regards to what we have discussed at this point? Okay, awesome. So at this time, we have one more resolution, smaller class sizes. So at this time, I would like to introduce Ms. Lainey Hampson from Class Size Matters to briefly discuss this topic. And then after she speaks on this topic, we're going to vote on our resolution. So I'm going to stop sharing at this time. And good morning. And it's a pleasure to have Ms. Lainey on board for us.
Thank you for having me, Madam Chairperson. As many of you know, New York City has the largest class sizes in the state for many years, 15 to 30%, which is really unfortunate because smaller classes was one of the few ways we know for sure improves learning for all kids. including higher test scores, higher grades, more likely to graduate from high school on time, more likely to go on to college, and even more likely to graduate from college with a STEM degree and own their own home more than 20 years later. And so we've been pushing for smaller classes for a long time. But with the pandemic, I think there was a larger consensus and understanding than ever before that smaller classes were important, not just for academic reasons, but also for social emotional reasons and to keep our kids safe in terms of the overcrowding in school buildings and in classrooms encourages the transmission of COVID and other viruses. So because we were getting a lot more money from the federal government and a lot more money from the state as a result of the CFE lawsuit, and the state money is recurring, which will be up to $1.3 billion annually. The CFE lawsuit was fought on the basis of the fact that our kids were not getting a sound basic education. And the state's highest court said, in fact, New York City kids were denied their right under the state constitution for a sound basic education, in part because class sizes were too large. And so that there was a bill introduced in the city council last year, as many of you might remember, that would lower class sizes in all grades by amending the administrative code in New York City, which requires a certain amount of square feet per student. That bill was signed on to by 41 out of 50 sitting city council members, but never came to a vote. We now have two bills in the legislature that would do something similar, phase in smaller class size caps over 5 years to no more than 20 in K through 3, 23 in 4th through 8th, and 25 in high schools, introduced by Senator Robert Jackson and Assembly Member Joanne Simon. And so we are urging parents to support that bill. We are also urging parents to support a reintroduction of the city council bill that was introduced last year, so that our kids shall finally receive their right under the state constitution to a sound basic education. Now, what has happened this year, because of enrollment decline, class sizes have come down substantially on average in many, many schools. I could show you slides, but I don't know that I have time, but it shows you that there's been a real drop in average class size in all grades. However, more than 187,000 students are still in classes of 30 or more. And the average class sizes in districts varies hugely across the city. So there are many districts, for example, in the Bronx and Queens, but also in Manhattan and Staten Island and Brooklyn, where class sizes are much larger than the average. And that's why caps are important in the law as opposed to averages, so that we can make sure that all kids, no matter where they go to school, have the opportunity for a smaller class and really have the opportunity that they need to learn. What else was I going to say was that our kids face bigger challenges post-COVID. They shouldn't have to face bigger class sizes over time. However, the mayor has proposed to cut school budgets next year by $215 million, increasing to $375 million over the next 3 years, which would cause the projected loss of more than 3,000 teachers, which would bring class sizes upwards again to their original levels, which are far, far too high. He's also proposing to cut more than 11,000 seats from the capital plan. They want to cut $1.5 billion from new school construction out of the capital plan. And we don't know why, but we think it may be partly because of enrollment decline, but partly also because of what Nancy talked about. They redefined school capacity to add thousands of new seats without doing anything except change the formula, which would require that schools schedule every single classroom, every single period, which we know is impossible. So we are continuing our fight for smaller classes, and we hope that you will support us in that fight. It is the top priority of K-12 parents for many years on the DOE's own surveys. I think there's a stronger consensus behind this issue than many other issues. because it's a reform that's proven to work and parents want it badly. So, and our kids are unfairly disadvantaged for years for having large classes. So that's about it. And I'd be happy to provide you with any data. If you email us at info@classsizematters.org, I can share you with what the data shows for this year and over time in terms of average class sizes, but also where your district is in terms of their average class sizes compared to the citywide average, really showing why we need to cap class sizes. The state bill and our proposal for the amended city council bill would allow a 5-year phase-in to make sure that there's enough time to build new schools, even in the most overcrowded neighborhoods. So thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm talking without thank you so much for taking the time out to come and join us regarding class size matters. Always a pleasure to have you. And again, any questions, she's here, take advantage. And in meanwhile, we're gonna review the letter, which was sent ahead of time again regarding class size matter. And after a minute, please, someone make a motion so we can adopt this resolution. This is an updated resolution. We did pass one last summer regarding the, smaller class sizes. Bronx High Schools, Lourdes, you have your hands up?
Yes, motion to accept the resolution.
I second it.
Okay, so we have Bronx High School and District 3. Anybody has any questions? Our resolution has been adopted, but anybody has any questions at this time regarding smaller class sizes, which was one of the themes for this month for our CPAC meeting? Okay.
I wanted to add something which I forgot. Rashida just reminded me, was that we have a class size survey online, and I'm going to drop the links in the chat. This is important. It's going to really help us in our advocacy to help push the mayor and the council to pass bills around this issue, because we really want to hear from parents and teachers and students about what the smaller classes, if they've had them this year, has allowed their kids to do, or if you don't have smaller classes, what is preventing your kids from learning. We've already gotten more than 100 responses, but we need more. Teachers have told us, one parent told us, I've had kids in the public schools in New York City for 7 years. This is the first time where I really feel that my child is getting sufficient feedback and attention from their teachers. I have had other teachers respond and say, I've been teaching in the system for a long time. Smaller classes are a godsend. I don't know how I could ever do without them again in the future. And if the mayor's cuts go through, we will no longer have smaller classes. I think he talks about enrollment decline as a huge negative thing. I see it as a positive thing that should be built on. Our schools and classrooms have been overcrowded for too long. We don't know whether the enrollment decline will continue or whether it will reverse itself. But in any case, we should be building on that, letting schools that already have smaller classes keep their smaller classes by not cutting their budgets, and allowing the other schools that do not have smaller classes to move towards more equitable class sizes as well.
Thank you so much for that, Lainey. So at this time, I'm going to remind everyone, and for those who don't know, our theme for this month, and we had handed in our concerns and recommendations on policy issues regarding digital learning, family and community engagement, everyone received this morning, again, the documentation that was sent to the Chancellor and his team in regarding digital learning, family engagement, and small class sizes. So at this time, we're going to talking about family engagement. We're going to have, I'm going to stop sharing the screen at this time. We're going to have our wonderful, extraordinary, who really do value family engagement, Dr. Christina Melendez, and Senior Director of FACE, Jesse Mojica at this time to give us FACE updates. Dr. Melendez is the FACE Executive Director of FACE. I know both of them are on.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. I am also here. Jesse and I are so happy to be here. Thank you for the introduction. I'm going to start. I am actually in the middle of some family stuff that you guys are way too familiar with, just kids and messiness. But I'm going to start with some FACE updates, and then Jesse will share some other wonderful things going on. Some of these things you've sort of touched upon already. So some of them are, the PEP application is public. If you don't have it already, you should be having it soon to make sure that all of the folks that we know, all the parent leaders and anybody who we know that wants to apply to be considered for that position submits their application. So that's something that's out and about and active that we would love for all of you to engage in for yourselves or support and nominate other fellow parents to do the same. We were recently with the Chancellor at a District 5 CEC town hall where it was led by students. They were asking questions, and they weren't just asking adult questions. They were really invested in their school. They were student government representatives of their schools, elementary schools and middle schools, and they were really just sharing their concerns with the Chancellor, and that was pretty amazing to watch and witness. So shout out to District 5. They did a wonderful job. I want to talk a little bit about the C37 process. We've engaged recently. Last Thursday, we engaged in a conversation to really get your thoughts and feedback on the process itself. And we are doing it again tonight. You must have already gotten this email. DC Blackburn last week also announced that in a week from that day, he was going to be hosting a similar conversation. Not a lot. He's not going to say a lot. He's definitely receiving all the information and really thinking about the best way to reimagine the C37 process and hire the superintendent that makes sense for your districts. So please engage, be engaged, participate. I said in the previous conversation, dream big. Folks were like, well, what do you want us to criticize or comment or give thoughts about? And DC Blackburn was like, anything and everything that you can imagine this process should be so that you can fully interview and understand the candidates is really what he's saying. So take a moment to think about it, to imagine what it is that you need. How would you feel best at being able to make a decision? What kinds of experiences you need to have with the person in the interview in order to feel like you know the person well enough and they understand your district well enough. So that's happening tonight again. If you were there last week and you want to come again because you have other ideas, you are welcome. If you were not able to make it because of the short notice that we recognize, but we're not going to stop. We're going to do our best to do it ahead of time, but we're also not going to stop inviting. So we want to get as many of you as possible to come tonight. And if you cannot, if you missed the first time and missed the second, by all means, feel free to send us your thoughts or feedback. You can email me, you can email Jesse, and we are more than happy to get that information included with Dr. Blackburn's thoughts. So as he reimagines the C37 process. So that's a big thing. Just today, I should have led with this, but it just happened. We had the GNT announcement made, the expansion of seats, the expansion of third grade, ensuring that every district has a GNT program in K and 3, the idea that second graders, high performing second graders will be given the opportunity to apply to their district third grade GNT program is what was said and shared today with the mayor. Some of the folks on this call were present, so thank you for that. And I want to share that BB, one of our folks at our team, has been working diligently with DIIT as elections are happening, and we might be switching PTA presidents. She's trying to really streamline the process of getting access to the emails. Historically, it hasn't been that simple in some spaces. And so we're really trying to do the work internally with DIIT so that new presidents can get access to their email boxes quickly so that they can send the emails they need to send. And that FLCs at the district level also have access to that information so that they can also reset it or work towards resetting it at a quicker rate, as opposed to calling DIIT and getting a ticket and all of the things that would happen historically. So we're trying to do some of that streamline. Welcome any more conversations that you think we should be having to streamline some processes within our system. And speaking of that, I really would love, and I was speaking with your co-presidents yesterday briefly, but one of my updates and something we're going to continue to discuss further is that Jesse and I, starting in September, are really going to go in. Want to really visit your schools and really hear from PA presidents, and really be supportive of the ground level parent leaders, right? So we look to CPAC to help us sort of formulate how to do that. What's the best approach to that? How do we get the best impression of what's going on in your respective districts? Of course, we want your voices included, not just in the process, but hopefully in the visits as well. So as we think about that, we welcome any thoughts around that, because we really want to get out into the field. And so we're going to be, because that's where the work happens, right? And so we want to get and hear from all of you about what's the best way to do that. And we want to get started as soon as elections are over. And to plan it so that starting in September, we hit the ground running and we make all the visits we could possibly make as soon as possible. So that's something that's coming that I'm going to personally ask CPAC members to really help us figure out the best way to do that. And then I wanted to share a little bit about just some of the engagements that are happening. So there's Equity Council have been having conversations. We're really, and that was already shared. I want to say that, we're really being intentional about creating the job description. That team really wants to be part of that conversation, so that we hire the right equity compliance officer. They're really thinking about the criteria for being on this equity committee, or the Equity Council. It's a lot, because I think that at the core of the equity work has been this understanding that D210 was one thing, but there are many parts of that work that need to continue. And so right now they're wrapped up in trying to finish the details of the D210, so that can be implemented and they can continue to do other work that they've already identified, things like language access and the like. The digital learning task force is an amazing opportunity. We've submitted a bunch of names, including those that were submitted from CPAC. They have not started to call people, so that is happening. So if you haven't gotten a call or received an email, just know that is coming. We are sort of squaring away internally. They're squaring away all the other stakeholders, so the teachers and the principals, and everyone else. I feel like I said a lot. There's some information that I think Jesse has regarding some of that open meeting law stuff, and the town hall, the upcoming town halls that we have left. So I'll pass it on to Jesse.
Thank you, Christina, and thank you, everyone. So the upcoming town halls for the remainder of the school year are, we have CSE 24 on May 10th, CSE 4 on May 11th, and CSE 17 on May 17th. And then from there, we will then start to schedule for the upcoming school calendar year, the remaining town halls. So that would take us to about, I believe, about 18 or 19 town halls that we've completed this year. And we're looking to schedule the remainder of our town halls starting in September. Also wanted to talk about the parent engagement sessions that Christina was talking about. We will also be having a session focused on school quality, and that will be on April 26th. The focus of that session is to get feedback as we look at and reimagine school quality reporting, looking at public-facing tools such as the school quality snapshot, the quality review, the school survey, and receiving feedback on how that process can be improved. So we'll be, we sent out an initial invite, but we'll resend out another reminder and invite for that session on the 26th. Also, as part of our monthly professional development series, we are having our next professional development will be focused on the superintendent evaluation. So every year, our community education councils go through a process of where they submit, an annual evaluation of the superintendent. And this year, every year, before that process has to conclude by the end of the school calendar year. So every year, we always have a professional development led by a parent leader to basically share that process and share best practices in that process. So we're very fortunate and pleased to have Naquan McLean, president of CSE 16, lead this year's session, and we're very thankful to Naquan for doing that. So that session will be on April 28th. And as well as the following month, our next professional development in the series, in our monthly series, will be focused on implicit bias. So we've had a couple of implicit bias presentations throughout the course of this year, and our third one will be on May 16th, and I'll share an invitation with all of the members of CPAC to attend this implicit bias training on May 16th. And lastly, just also wanted to echo Dr. Melendez in her recognition of CC5, and I see that Aisha Irving is on. The town hall this week was, just amazing and led by students, and really appreciate the leadership of all in District 5 for just an amazing town hall. But with that said, Dr. Melendez, I believe we've covered all of the updates and definitely open to questions from the members.
Okay, I'm going to read the chat first. So will the entrance only be at third grade and I'm assuming this is the G&T going forward? What happens to the current schools who have this service already? I don't know if Jessica, you want to unmute and elaborate what you're asking?
Sure. So I listened to the press conference this morning with the chancellor and all his deputies, and so I'm very excited to hear about the expansion of the program. Our district currently has 4 schools, and so I just was wondering, will it go down to 1 school, or will we be able to add more schools perhaps in our district? And also, will the entrance now only be at 3rd grade for school year? I have to think. In 2 years.
So no, there's an expansion, not a reduction, right? So there's if you currently have a program, your program will continue. It's not like it's going to end. We're not ending anything because this is the new way. I think there's just there are many more districts that just do not have any points of entry for G&T. And so it is creating those in all districts. It is not only a 3rd grade thing, it'll be a kindergarten thing as well. but also the opportunity for, if you didn't get into kindergarten for whatever reason, that there's whether you're in the first grade right now and just didn't have that kindergarten option in your district, or didn't get in for other reasons, that there's an opportunity for a child who has demonstrated other abilities and interest in that, and families that are interested in that program will now have an opportunity in the third grade to be considered, right? And then those that have kindergarten programs will continue to have kindergarten programs. And again, those children will continue to have that option, as well as other districts that did not have that option. To be completely transparent, and it was something that was said in the press conference, the details are still being discussed, and your input and information, whether you have already participated in your district's gifted and talented or have not, your feedback is going to be very, very important as they continue to discuss GNT and the details of it. So it is not set in stone. The only thing today was that it's going to be expanded, that every district should have the option and the opportunity to have access to these programs.
Thank you. Dr. Melendez, before I let Lourdes have the floor, she has her hands up. I got sent a message from the Citywide Council of Special Education. Ellen McHugh was stating that only CECs can vote, not the Citywide Council. So she would like to plead that the Chancellor, you can make changes to the regs to add the 4 Citywide Education Councils so they are able to vote for that PEP member. And I don't know if you want to make a comment to that statement. And
No, I did hear that. And I did get Ellen's email, and thank you for that. Again, this is sort of a bigger conversation around, the laws, state laws, and then the interpretation of the law, and then where do folks want to stand. So I've received the information from multiple perspectives, and thank you for the question and for raising that again.
Thank you. So Lourdes, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The question is in regards to SOT principals evaluations and DLT superintendent's evaluation by members. That is something that has been on the A655 for years, but has not been used. That's number one. The other thing is a comment about, please don't forget that current presidents are still on their positions until June 30th, and DOE emails and Zoom accounts should not be locked out until at least June 31st. Just to give us an opportunity to consolidate and be able to, transfer as it is supposed to be done A660. Also, as you all know, PS 69 had a situation in our district, and it is concerning because this is happening all over the place. It's happening at every district, and today it touches today and a few of the other days have touches our areas here in the Bronx. I want to make sure that we're doing everything possible to create safety in and out of our schools for our children and our entire communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much for bringing that up, because it is such a serious concern. Safety, it is our most important job at schools, and it's been hard. It's been hard, right? And so it's been hard in so many levels, at so many spaces, and so many children have been in the crossfire of gun violence specifically. And so we are very aware. It is a huge city problem as per our subway attacks that we witnessed and experienced the other day, where all of us were scrambling to make sure that the folks that we know that take the train at that time were not affected and are still okay, right? We were doing that at the staff level. My mom was definitely calling me and I was like, it's in Brooklyn, Mom. And she's like, I know, but you never know, right? And I'm sure all of you were doing that to some extent with your loved ones. And children were also caught in the crossfire as well, because it was that time of day where children were on their way to school. Children experienced lockdowns and all of those things that were just really hard. And folks at the DOE were out at those communities. All our deputy chancellors and our chancellor were out in those communities firsthand to understand and support and be in solidarity with the communities that were experiencing all of this. And so that's going to continue. We're going to continue to support our schools that are experiencing this firsthand. But overall, we're really thinking about, you will hear Mark Rampasant. He's really on top of like, how do we really support our schools? How do we really support our communities, working with other agencies in the city to really get the city together, right? And work together to make sure that everyone in our city is safe, particularly our most vulnerable children, right? And so that's a huge thing for all of us. Thank you for flagging the date for the emails. We were just working on the seamlessness of the process, not necessarily the dates, but the date is really important to note. So I will definitely make sure to keep that at the forefront. And my heart goes out to all the folks that in your community that are feeling and experiencing so much heartache right now, and all of the communities across the city that are feeling that. I don't know if I missed something.
Yeah, the SLTs and DLTs, principals and superintendents evaluation by their members.
And I think that historically, right, and these are the conversations that we're having, particularly around like even things like the C37, where we're understanding that like, we need to rebuild trust, that families are not feeling like they are being heard, that there are these opportunities for them to evaluate and voice their thoughts about leadership at the district and the school level, and it's not being well received. And I think that, and what I know for sure is that Deputy Chancellor Dr. Blackburn is very committed to really solidifying the leadership across the city and at every one of our schools. And so his work is going to be centered around not just hiring superintendents, but once that's done, really getting to understand our principal hiring process and understanding, all of these pieces and how parents are engaged in those conversations around evaluation specifically and taking on that feedback. So rest assured that that's going to come. Please also add that in the conversation for the C37. If you will participate, I will definitely take that back to Deputy Chancellor Dr. Blackburn. He's already aware and excited to continue to engage and integrate the families evaluation in the conversations.
Thank you. Before I ask, Randy would like to ask a question.
I just wanted to see if something could be brought back to the Chancellor. So a lot of parents have been bringing up prom. It's very important for our children to get back to normal. It's been said multiple times, but unfortunately, because of the vaccine mandate, students who are not vaccinated are unable to attend prom. Is this something that can be lifted? And can it be discussed now so it can be done in time for June? I know our children's education is more important, but so is their social emotional well-being, and children being excluded from prom because they're not vaccinated just doesn't seem right. So is there something that can be done, looked into, worked on together with maybe, some parent leaders and the DOE to have this happen. They're already sitting in classrooms together, unvaccinated. So can something be done about this?
Yeah, I hear you. I think these conversations are happening right now. Or should be happening right now. I will definitely take those back. We've had some of these conversations also around just parent leaders and the vaccine mandate as well, right? So these are things that are of great concern. How do we ensure our health, right? Back to the safety thing, like how do we ensure health and safety for all while also really taking into account, some of these pieces that children and families have worked so hard for and have been looking forward to for long periods of time, right? So definitely take that back and should have more to say on that concretely soon.
Thank you. So now we're gonna have Brooklyn High School's Miss Green, and then I'm gonna read a question from the chat from District 10. Miss Green, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. I wanted to know, I was going to say, this week, because of the tragedy that happened in the subway that just happened to be the 36th Street station, where there was there's an array of schools that are right there. None affected more than the D75 school that was right on that corner, because the D75 is on the corner of 36th and 4th. It's directly across the street from the station. But it did highlight something, once again, that only gets highlighted every time we have one of these incidents. And that is the safety committees in the schools, and how apart from the major annual safety committee meeting that's done at the beginning of the year for the school, the school-wide based thing, how there's not always parent participation or parent invitation to the safety committees that happen monthly. And there should be parent representation, especially since we do have PA and PTA leaders. But if the PA or PTA leaders are not invited by the principal, or not notified by the principal and or the administrative staff of the schools, and don't know when the meetings are, all these things like a soft lockdown, a hard lockdown, a shelter in place, none of this is discussed other than really in the safety meeting. So I want to know how going forward, is there going to be a way to improve how principals feel about inviting parents to safety meetings? Because I've actually had a parent say that, oh, it's nice, the principal invited me to the safety meeting, and it was May. So all the other safety meetings that happened all year through, she didn't know anything about. So, and parents are an integral part of the community. They are an integral part of every school. Parents do need to be at these safety meetings, and they do need to have representation, and they do need to know when they're happening. So I want to know what's going to be happening going forward. I think this needs to be reinforced. We're definitely in a different world, and it needs to be reinforced.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that the most important thing I can do is, given where we are right now and the recent events that have just been happening across our city, this is something that we need to elevate and really bring back, right? This is not like, what am I doing? What are the schools doing? But it's like, how are the communities being empowered to take care and support themselves and each other, right? And so I agree with this, and I will definitely elevate this conversation so that these protocols, which are already in place, as you said, are revisited, and folks are reminded that we've learned through this pandemic that parents and families and the whole community are integral parts of our schools and the success of our children. And the Chancellor for sure agrees and believes that wholeheartedly, and I for sure do as well. And so does Deputy Chancellor Kenita Lloyd. And so, yeah, to revisit that and communicate that again really strongly and clearly, I think is is a very simple thing to share with DC Blackburn for sure. Thank you for that.
All right, so the next question is from District 10. I don't know, Maria, you want me to read it? How is the voice of the multilingual language learners and families of IEP get included in the G&T conversation? When we had the G&T conversation with DC Lloyd, it was dominated by certain districts and the voices at certain districts and voices, and not once were the interpretation lines asked to share their voice.
Yeah, I remember that, Maria. I think it's really important that we hold on to the fact that while there was an announcement made today around the expansion of the program, I want us to remember that the details have not been hashed out. And I think that when you, Deputy Chancellor Quintana is very much committed to all students, particularly students with special needs and students with multilingual learners and everyone. But so how do we create an equitable access to programs like GNT is really important and at the forefront of her work. So she's very much interested in hearing from you. How do you see that happening? How important is that to the communities that you are in, and ideas of how to make that come to fruition, right? So she's welcome to the ideas. She's clear that that's important. And we are always happy to get your thoughts around that. So if you have specific thoughts, she will be on in a couple of minutes. And I know we're not necessarily talking about that, but I'm sure she'll welcome it in light of the fact that the announcement was just made. Always feel free to communicate your thoughts to myself or Jesse, or even to Shirley and Randy, who can definitely get it to us if you feel like that's important. But yes, I hear you. And as an English language learner myself, I understand how important it is to make sure that we are intentional in centering all children.
Thank you. So now we have District 75. Andrea, you have the floor.
Yeah, I just had a comment about this vaccination status for the parents and the students. So it's sad to hear that students cannot go to prom first, or if they're not vaccinated. I think that's not right, because kids are sitting together in classrooms, whether they're vaccinated or not. So I think that's very unfair. I agree with Randy on that one, for starters. And we need to do something about that. That's not fair. And another thing too, in reference to my school in particular, they had a talent show yesterday and no parents were invited. Yet they bust out the kids from the other site to perform with the kids from the bigger site. And we're high school, so that's quite a few kids. But parents were not allowed to come to the talent show. Now, I was told in an email by the principal, and it had nothing to do with vaccination. She just ain't want no parents in the building. She didn't say nothing about vaccinations, if you are, you're not, anything like that. I was told in the email, oh, I could come because I'm the PA president, but not other parents. So I did not attend my own daughter's talent show because of that, because I didn't feel comfortable, because other parents couldn't go. So why should I go? Because I'm a PA president.
Thank you for sharing that. And I am going to put my email on the chat. I would love to take this offline and maybe have a further conversation with you just about the details of some of these concerns. But how, this is the work, right?
This is not the first, and not to interrupt you, this is not the first parent event. They had other parent events in the building. So why they couldn't go to the talent show? So I definitely need to take this offline.
Yeah, no, I mean, I want you to take it online, but also like offline, in the sense that like, I want to get the details so that I can get all the information that I need to be as supportive as I possibly can. But online, I want to make sure that we, like, this is this is the work, right? The work is how do we integrate and support school leaders and district leaders to really understand and embrace the power of building community and supporting all families and integrating all families into their space, because that is how children are successful, right? Children are successful when both families and schools come together in support of our children. And so that is the big task, and that is the big work for FACE. And that's why we're thinking a lot about, really partnering with all our deputy chancellors, but particularly Deputy Chancellor Blackburn around, how do we ensure that superintendents understand the value and the need and the importance of families and integrating families and building relationships with communities at large, right? And then how do we support superintendents in being able to then share that with their principals and really support their principals in building that expertise. And so that's where we're going. That is the Chancellor's commitment to ensure that parents are integrated and are really part of the conversations at every level. And so I want to know as much as I can right now around, where are these things happening very well? There are many school communities within your districts where this is like amazing, and those leaders need to be celebrated because they have figured it out. And there are places where there's opportunity to grow, right? That some of our school leaders and our district leaders need some supports in understanding how to do that. Beyond just inviting them to the talent show, beyond just a bake sale, beyond just a fundraiser, right? Like, how do we do that work as a normal part of our leadership stance? And so that's where we're going. I'm going to put my email on the chat so that we can also talk offline as well about your specific sort of situation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so UFT President Mulgrew is running late. He said he'll be on the platform by 11. There's a situation in one of the schools. We do have our Deputy Chancellor FACE here, Kanita Lloyd. I'd like to give her a few minutes if she would like to speak and address on some of the comments that were made or questions, if she is available. And then I see Maria put a comment in the chat. The opportunity is only available for this group on this platform and CEC members. What about those that aren't in these spaces? Well, as I'm going to answer that to a certain degree. As parent leaders here, we are supposed to go back to our President's Council, turnkey that information, have the same conversations we're having here at our President's Councils, and in turn, President's Council members are supposed to have those conversations where they're with their PA, PTAs. And then the reverse is also true. PA, PTAs send their concerns, comments, and suggestions to their President's Councils. They have those conversations, and you will bring it back to CPAC. So I'm speaking for CPAC. This is how the communication and exchange of information should be happening. When it comes to the community education councils, they have public comments. Again, you go back to the PA PTAs, those parents are having a conversation because it's available to all parents and families in that, and this is the way the DOE has structured. But of course, here you go, the email addresses are being shared by FACE and our speakers. Share those email addresses with your constituents, and they also can send directly their information and concerns to the DOE as well.
Yeah.
So, see the comment. She wants the open dialogue about the G&T.
Yeah, and I think Shirley's point of why we are leveraging our parent leaders in the conversations is because we know that you are going back to your communities at every level, at your district level and at your individual school level, and really sharing information and soliciting information from folks on the ground. And then, so when you share with us your feedback, we know that you're sharing the information from all of the folks that you've been able to talk and speak with and interact with. So that is our hope and our expectation, and why we always, have the conversations with our CEC presidents and CPAC, because within those two organizations, we have access to many points of view and thoughts across our city. And so when we ask for specific engagements around things like GNT, the hope is that the same things are happening, that we are getting the information, that we tell you, we solicit ideas, and that you're sharing ideas, not just for yourself, but for all of those that you are represented as an elected body. That does not mean, as Shirley said, that there are no emails that they cannot send the information to, or that you cannot gather information in other ways and have other opportunities to collect the information and share with us. I put my email on the chat, and you are always welcome to share, other ideas that maybe didn't come through in the first engagement because you didn't get to someone. Happy to receive it however it comes.
Thank you, Dr. Melendez. I know you have your hands up, Lourdes. Can you just hold for a sec? We do have, I want to acknowledge the UFT President Michael Mulgrew is here with us. This is one of the stakeholders that we work very closely with, and he's here to address our membership. And then if you have any questions after he give us UFT updates, please free to raise your hands or put your questions in the chat. So at this time, we're going to introduce President Mulgrew from the UFT.
Thank you. It's Michael, but thank you. I appreciate that. Excuse my lateness. We've had a hectic morning, to say the least. We had another incident in the Bronx, but thank God, some people were hurt, but school safety officer intervened and really stopped something bad from happening, and he himself was injured. But it's a couple of slashings versus someone being deceased is much bigger difference. But the safety officer and the other teachers really rallied around to really stop something bad from happening. But that seems to be what we're all dealing with right now on a daily basis. And that's our, for the last month, really, the focus has been more on safety, the traditional type of safety versus the COVID type of safety. Even though COVID is, we see it once again, the numbers are going up. But again, the schools absolutely remain the safest place. Our numbers are much lower than they are in the communities. But today is the beginning of a break, and we're going to see what happens when we get back. But that's always a concern. But right now, I think we're all dealing with the same issue of basically violence. Where every day we're having schools on shelter in. It's not that it's violence inside of the schools; it's violence right outside of the schools. Last Friday we had this horrible tragedy up in the Bronx. Families devastated, school communities devastated. Well, this is part of what we're going to have to deal with as a city. And when I speak to the mayor, I'm like, it's not just you alone. This is all of us now, because we can't. This is not what we were expecting when we were thinking about possibly getting out of this pandemic. And then at the same time, we're doing this as this new administration comes in. I know that the chancellor has been speaking to a lot of parents, and I applaud him for doing that. We're waiting to see how they roll out their changes, because we've all been frustrated about the Department of Education and its lack of real communication with parents. And we're hoping that this new administration, and right now, they really want to work with parents and with teachers and with stakeholders, and not basically hold them, just go to meetings and give us lip service, which is what we've been getting for basically about 20 years. So we're waiting to see where this goes with them. We like the vision, solidify the early childhood program, because that is a major benefit to our school system. Get that solidified. Let's talk about civics, not in the traditional civics way that we think about, but really about, it's not just about how government works, but it's about being a responsible part of your community. We applaud that. That's something we've been asking for. Gifted and talented announcement today. Been saying for a long time that, you know, using standardized tests in kindergarten is a bad thing to do. But at the same time, we want to be able to recognize children who are really, you know, have shown a propensity for accelerated learning. And there's different ways to do that. So we think this is a step in the right direction. Special education continues to be a problem. And that really is going to see what gets put into place to hold the schools accountable for services, to hold, and it's not just the schools. We refer more children for evaluation than any school district in the state because our system was set up to be a mandated driven system, not an intervention system. It's supposed to be an education. I'm a special education teacher as well as an English teacher. All our research and everything tells us that you should have groups of interventionists. And when I'm talking about interventionists, I'm talking about psychologists and social workers in teams working with the earliest grades to identify children who have challenges or behaviors that could become problematic and work with them at that level. We do not have that. And that's where we're pushing to get to. Because if not, we're going to continue, because if a school has no choice, but this child is having certain issues and we don't have people here to help, the only thing we can do is go through the process of trying to get them an evaluation. That's not the way this is supposed to work. So there's the evaluation piece, the evaluation, getting the evaluations done themselves, as we know, is jammed up. And we've worked with them. We worked with SED to say that we should be using offices of oath to help us undo that backlog. But that's only that backlog is because of a symptom of a bigger problem, which is we have to approach this as an intervention for children as early as possible, not a mandate-driven system. And the career pathways, those things we supported for years. It's not just career and technical education. It's about really having our students understand that after school, after they finish whatever their educational career will be, they have to be able to earn a living and take care of themselves, and that's what they want. But we have to teach them that awareness ahead of time, and that's something we fully support. Now, can we get it done? That's really the challenge. That's the challenge. And they've brought in some folks who seem to know their stuff. A lot of them are from outside the system. So you all know that once people walk into that little bureaucracy, the Tweed courthouse, strange things happen. And we're just hoping that those strange things don't happen. But for us, it's about, let's get, we want to finish up the school year, get as much positive interaction as we can with our students. Hopefully, we start turning the corner with all of this violence. And again, it's the schools are the safest place. It's how do we get our students to and from school is becoming the problem. We're short 2,000 safety officers. Yes, on Monday morning, I'm in the Bronx at the school where that beautiful young woman was killed. Tuesday, I'm in Brooklyn dealing with, almost 20 schools on shelter in because of what's going on at the train station on 36th Street. And the schools remained in shelter in most of the day. And then the schools closest to that train station had to get them out. That was the first day we were able to set up safe corridors. That's a way to get our students from their school back to their houses. And we only were able to do that because we had all of this extra NYPD support. So these are the challenges we're facing. But the school community seemed to be more close-knit than before, and that's a positive. And I think it's really, as I tell the teachers and the guidance counselors and everyone, we have a new administration. It's in all of our interests to try to help them be the best administration of all time, because then the schools are better education. We're all moving forward, and that's what we're going to try to do. In the past, we've always tried to do that, and sometimes we'll end up fighting because we know the policies are hurting. When they're ignoring you, the parents, when they're ignoring research and educators and everybody else, but we do not believe that's going to be the case here. But we'll see where it goes. So And again, please excuse my lateness. That's not the norm for me. It's just been really a hectic morning.
Thank you, Michael, for coming and taking the time out. At this time, anyone want to make any comments, any questions for Michael, UFT representative here? Okay, so we have Miss District 20, Ms. Stern.
I completely agree with everything you just said, 100%. Because, I do have a kid in special education, and the struggle of just getting services and just dealing with the bureaucracy and the psychologists that feel that they need to tell me what my kid needs instead of what I know my child needs. And that's been a big issue because we have a number of multi-language learner parents that they're not getting the services for their children. They're being ignored. They're being talked out of getting the services, right? And then their kids are falling behind because our numbers are very low when it comes to immigrant parents because they can't help their children because they don't speak the language, right? So the ELA scores are low, their math scores are low, and we're not giving them the supports that they need to increase it, right? Because same thing that Maria said about the GNT. That's great that you guys want to add more seats, but you're missing and you're leaving out the parents that have kids in special education and the kids that English is not their first language. They're being left. We've been left out of the conversation for over 20 years, and our kids are the ones that you get funding for. So you get funding for our kids to be in your school, but yet we're being left out completely out of the conversation, and it's unfair, and it happens continuously, and they put Band-Aids on things, and it's like open wounds that they're not getting fixed.
And I am completely behind the state putting a monitor on our school system if the DOE doesn't change what it's doing. I mean, that's a scary thing that an independent monitor will come in here. I've told this chancellor ahead of time. I've told the mayor. I said, you're very close to having a monitor on special education. We have a special education division in the Department of Education whose job, they believe their job is not to supply the service, but to rationalize why children aren't getting services, even though they're supposed to be getting them. And we file complaints constantly, and the system is completely set against the child and the parent. As we file complaints, parents file complaints through our system also. They'll keep that complaint investigation going throughout the school year. And then when the school year ends, the complaint automatically drops. And then we file the same complaint for the same child the following year. And that's why it's criminal what they've been doing with this. And I've been completely outspoken, black and white on this issue to the chancellor, the mayor, and everyone else. And I will see Commissioner Rosa tonight. She's in full support. She said, if they don't straighten out, I will supply a monitor. I will put a monitor over the New York City public school system when it comes to special education, which she has the legal authority to do. And so does the United States Department of Education, because it's not just about these are children who generate funding. That funding is for a reason, and these children are covered under civil rights statutes. So this is, parents should all be talking to each other and pushing on this issue. We absolutely will continue to try to do everything in our power, but we're very frustrated, very, very frustrated with them when it comes to special education. Just think about how simple this would be. Every school gets a budget. The policy of the New York City public school system is the budget is sent to a principal, the principal disperses the budget. It does not say that the principal must spend the money that was sent by the federal government on those services before they spend anything else. So the money gets sent to the school for the service. So it should be a system that says you can't touch your budget until you first prove to us that you have the right personnel and the right services for those IEPs in place. It really would be that simple to fix this.
Thank you.
And they are reluctant to do it.
We're gonna take two questions. Then we have our no apologize. We're gonna take two questions from District 6 and District 2. We have our Deputy Chancellor Quintana learning and teaching will follow after those two questions. So this Lewis and then Leonard, and then we'll give the floor to our Deputy Chancellor because she has to leave at 11:30.
Sorry about that.
No, don't apologize.
Thank you, Madam
Go
Chair.
ahead,
I just have a question for Michael Mulgrew, the president of the U of T. My daughter goes to middle school in District 6, which is sort of like they don't have a lot of personnel, but the ELA teacher for the 8th graders, she took a maternity leave, which she's entitled to. But this has been about a month and a half now, and I think she's returning in about another month. And they initially there were substitutes that were signed, regular teachers signed, but no consistency. And I had a conversation with the principal via email, and she said that they exhausted all measures, such as interviews, working with human resources partners, reaching out to district schools, advertising at City College. We're near City College, Fordham Teachers College, etc. And so, is there a way to make sure that it's an easier process for when someone goes on maternity leave or sick leave, that the students don't have to have like several teachers because there's no consistency? I just wanted to keep it at that.
With the substitute pool was basically completely exhausted because of the vaccine mandate.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Now,
Okay.
I'm not telling you the HR department of the Department of Ed has done their job well. Okay. But I will tell you that the entire substitute pool has been exhausted because of the vaccine mandate. So it's now a scramble. So if you get someone who wants to get a substitute license or get a smart card, that's all that's required. You can get that to us. We'll fast track it. We'll process them for you. But that was not a problem until this year. This became a big problem this year because of the vaccine mandate.
Thank you, Leonard. And then we're going to have DC Quintana. Michael, can you stay a little longer? I don't know if you have to leave. Can you stay a little bit longer?
I can stay a little bit longer. I was the late one.
Okay, so thank you. So Leonard, your question, and then we'll give the floor to DC Quintana.
Sure. Hi, Michael. I apologize. I was also late. Michael, I get the sense that over the past couple of years, particularly because of COVID, there's been some negative press, or I should say a different feeling about teachers. Certainly in my district, I think it had to do with remote versus in-person learning. And I just get the sense that a lot of parents over the last couple of years really did not feel the same way about teachers in general that they did due to COVID policies. And I'm wondering, and I apologize if you addressed this in your earlier comments, but I'm wondering, what is the UFT doing, if anything, to kind of restore that confidence that we have in our teachers? And I think I get the sense, and I have to say certainly in our district, that there was a negative impact on how people think about teachers in general over the positions that the UFT took with regard to not going to classrooms, opting for more remote options along those lines. So I wonder if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I would say it's all over the place in terms of the city itself. The last year, with 65% of the parents choosing to go remote for their students, that caused, so we had to cover what was inside of the schools first and foremost. And then at the same time, we also had to supply the remote learning. We always said remote learning is not the best way to do this, but we don't know, so unless someone comes up with another plan for the next pandemic, God forbid, I'm not sure how else you would handle it. There was no remote system set up in the city of New York. It was all done haphazardly, and every school had to do it on their own. I've heard from a lot of parents that they're very thankful, and they saw the teachers every day, what they were doing with their students. But in terms of the policies themselves, the policy of closing classrooms and different things like that, that was, we had a say in it, we had a voice in it, but the ultimate decision was made by the Department of Health of New York City. And those were their policies that continued to close classrooms and schools and all of those things. So if parents are saying they think that was the UFT who did it, all we said was follow the doctors. You know, we don't like people telling educators how to, you know, to do their work. I'm sure in whatever profession you're in, you don't want people telling you who don't know the work how to do it, but we all have to deal with those aspects. Everyone think they know what is best. But the teachers themselves, I mean, this year, what they've done, this has been the hardest year of teaching and any of the teachers have ever been through, hands down, because there's been a lot of damage. And, you know, we were in the middle of a transition, and all the plans that were put in place with the last mayor got blown up. It was all political. It had nothing to do with anything educational. And then the new team came in and they were left with this whole bag of stuff that was sitting out there. Just like we're going to do a social emotional screening again, even though the last time we did the social emotional screening and it went nowhere. Every school who filled out, if a child was flagged for needing outside services, nobody ever came. And that's the way the system was set up. But I hear what you're saying, and it's different in different areas, but we'll continue to make sure that people actually understand what really has happened and is happening right now.
Thank you. So at this time, Deputy Chancellor of Teaching and Learning, DC Quintana, you have the floor.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And pleasure to be here with you all this morning. Good to see you, Michael. Wanted to just take a moment to say hello to everybody and just to be available for questions. I don't really have anything prepared to say. One of the things that I did want to mention is that we have been working very hard since getting here in January, and have been really thankful that we have had an opportunity to meet with various groups of parents, educators, and even students to hear about some of the issues that you've brought up on this call and that I've been seeing on the chat, to hear about some of the requests that you may have. And that's helping us to really think about what's needed in our schools so that we're not coming in just to put in place whatever may seem right or fancy or new or neat to us, but rather to really think about what's needed. How do we provide adequate supports? How do we challenge our students appropriately? How do we make sure that our kids have access to varied kinds of opportunities for both the supports to their learning, but also enrichment and other kinds of opportunities too. So I'm really thankful to be in this space with you now and want to be able to answer whatever questions I can, but mostly to listen so I can take away some ideas and take away some of your frustrations and really see what can we do to address that in real time so that beginning, now we can start to work on plans together. And we can really be thoughtful about what we can put in place. And so thank you for inviting me to this meeting.
Okay, thank you, DC Quintana. There's a lot of questions about summarizing, and then also what about high schools too, about summarizing. I know it would probably be individual per school, or they will collectively do programs, but a question had came up about funding. Do the schools, and this is talking about high schools, are they going to have to fund their own summarizing program, or will we, like last summer, will be funding those programs? And then we'll take other questions.
Great, thank you. That's a great question. So we're really excited about summarizing this year as a building off of what started last year, and this time with a little more pre-planning and some lessons learned as a joint production between City Hall, DYCD, and New York City Public Schools. And so offering for, as you know, K through 8, a summarizing program that'll include opportunities to participate in academic activities as much as those summer camp type activities. And so really exciting what's happening there. For high school, it's not unlike previous years so not last year, but previous years of high school summer school. Schools, there will be certain buildings that are open. Not every building will be open this summer. And in those buildings, schools will, as in years past, have to affiliate to that building, and then they'll each create their own summer school. And so if they are working as a campus, that's totally acceptable. If they're working individually, that's fine too. The schools will receive not only the principal and the school will receive the summer school funding, but we're also offering an additional amount of funding through stimulus monies for schools to actually bring in CBOs to help over the summer. So the high schools will receive an additional amount that will help with CBOs. And that way they can do those kinds of activities or bring in SEL supports, maybe even do some enrichment if they need to do some sort of bridging to make sure that kids are caught up in terms of their courses, want to bring in tutoring services. We have access to all of those resources, and we'll make sure that principals know how to find or how to be connected to those resources, and they'll receive additional funding so that they can make choices about what they want to offer in their schools.
Thank you so much. We have Staten Island, Ms. Atterbury.
Also, just before Ms. Atterbury asks the question, I want to add, sorry, summer school also has the SYEP component, and really important. So there is an SYEP component. There are opportunities being offered, and through the tutoring that we're going to be offering in the elementary and middle schools, we're actually asking some of our high school students to participate and receive either stipends or be paid through SYEP to do some of that literacy tutoring for the younger kids as well. So there are lots of opportunities for kids to practice work-based things. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. I'm coming to you for a question that our parents brought up at our President's Council and in Staten Island, because we are a close district. The President's District and the high school meet together, but parents reached out to me personally. They're having a problem with the Mosaic curriculum. This has been brought to our CEC 31 about particular books, the language in the books. Some parents feeling that you're just keeping a cycle of racism keep going on, and this was a major problem to the parents in my district, and they was discussing that we all, and I'm speaking as a Black woman, we all want our cultural history to be known, but the problem is the way it's being taught to make one child, especially the ages from K to 5, feel bad about themselves because they're in a different culture than their friends. And the words that in some of the book, and I have the books that I can share with you that uses profanity. I mean, they don't actually use theirs. It's like the F, but blank, 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 with stars and everything. So that's their major concern. Like, how was these books chosen? Why was these books chosen? And they really want it to be brought to see about those certain particular books not being on that list. And I can talk to you further about it because it really was a long discussion and concern.
Yep. I appreciate you surfacing that concern. So there are a few things in there. One is that the books that were sent to schools are not part of the Mosaic curriculum. The books that were sent to schools are books that were sent so that schools would have access to diversity in books that could be culturally responsive and could absolutely be part of a classroom library. And so they were meant to build schools' classroom libraries. So if there are books that you feel are either inappropriate, developmentally not appropriate, or are sending the wrong messages, by all means, please let me know. There's a process that we go through, obviously, to vet those books in the event that there is some sort of a concern, but I would absolutely appreciate if you would let me know. I'll put my email address in the chat in just a moment, and that way you can email me directly. But as far as Mosaic, we're actually really excited about that. So in the last couple of weeks, we have been reading all of the parent and community engagement that already happened with Mosaic, doing some of the research, have reconvened some of those groups so that we can begin that work again. We are looking at the Mosaic budget and how we'll go about with the teachers and principals that had already been hired for per session to help write and help guide the Mosaic curriculum. We're going to launch all of that work again. So we're really, really excited about that. And we'll be putting together materials for grades K through 8 that will be, as was meant to be, a curriculum that is culturally responsive, that is community responsive, that gives students opportunities for agency and voice. And we'll use that process of building that curriculum to provide schools with a process to go through for themselves to design their own or to have their own curricula approved if they choose to use that instead. And so Mosaic will serve two purposes that way. What's really important for us, though, with this Mosaic curriculum is that we see all of our students represented and that there are opportunities to learn in different ways too. So it's not just about making sure that we have books that have representation or things like that, but also making sure that teachers have the right pedagogical practices, that the curriculum is asking really important questions. And so we're working on that, but we've just relaunched that. So that's just now going to get off the ground again, and really, really excited. And as we begin to develop a plan, we'll share that with you more and more. So that you have access to the information in real time and you have a sense of where we are in terms of not only developing, but rolling out Mosaic. We have a ton of engagement that was already done with students and parents and members of the community, but I guarantee you that we'll be re-engaging with folks to hear from you now, especially based on where we've been and what's happened so far. So know that Mosaic is happening again, and we're really, really excited about that and the opportunity to create something that is reflective of our city. So excited about that. We also, this morning, I see the mayor just hopped on, we had an opportunity to launch the Gifted and Talented program, and I'll let the mayor, hi mayor, if you want to go ahead and I know you're on, so I'll let you take the stage.
Go ahead,
No, he's not.
finish your presentation.
Yes.
Okay. All right, great. So we launched Gifted and Talented this morning as well. And something really exciting about that is that while we're increasing not just the number of seats, we're making sure that there's going to be at least a Gifted and Talented program in every district, both in kindergarten and in third grade. We're also working with schools who are interested in bringing in other programs, in creating advanced opportunities, enrichment opportunities, other types of programs as well. So we'll provide teacher professional development, coaching. It's going to be really important for us not to just give this one and done professional development, but that we really support both teachers and leaders so they can build up these practices. So we're really, really excited about the opportunities, and Mosaic will help us bring in the curriculum and the content that we want to make sure is part of that too.
Thank you
So
so very much.
We're going to take one more question, and then we'll introduce our mayor. District 4, Rashida.
Thank you, Shirley. Thank you, Quintana. I appreciate you. Yep. Rashida Brown Harris. I'm here representing District 4, East Harlem. And off the heels of what Mr. Mogul said, yeah, we need our schools to be better equipped to support our students. We have to approach this as an intervention for sure, Mr. Mogul. You said the SSA and the teachers help mitigate that situation. And that's important to say because it's not just the SSAs only keeping our children safe. It's a collective. Right? And it really starts from prevention and support and resources, right? And we need to be able to identify and support our children who are truly gifted and who are beautifully blessed with being a multilingual student, RL students. We need to be able to support our students with IEPs, as you said, and recognize our students are indeed dealing with trauma, suffering with mental illness and social emotional wellness, and are actually getting more harm from schools and the system because the schools are not equipped to support. They don't have the time to support because they're what? Dealing with standardized state tests, overwhelmed with standardized state tests, test prep, proctoring these tests, et cetera, et cetera. The time and energy and money that goes into these state tests, this culture is a waste. We can focus on our children in ways that you mentioned, Mr. Mogul. Like we need healing-centered schools. We need a healing-centered approach, meaning to center our approach in healing, where we are implementing culturally responsive sustaining curriculum, smaller class sizes, restorative practices. We need counselors, not cops, in our schools. We need academic interventionists, literacy coaches, more social workers, more arts, more enrichments, project-based learning, civic engagement. And we need real time to carve out in our schools in the days for the teachers and the educators and school staff to get to know our students. I don't know how many times I got to get on these spaces and say that our teachers don't know our students and vice versa. Our students don't know our teachers. All of our children they have the right to be well and safe physically, socially, emotionally, and academically. And it's the DOE's obligation to provide this. And it's not rocket science. We just need to slow down, take the time to build the community, listen to each other, and understand who we are and where we come from. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rashida.
Thank you, Rashida.
DC Cortana, you want to close out before you leave?
Sure. And I think Rashida did a fantastic job there, right? So I don't know how much more to add to that, but I want to say thank you. And you're absolutely right. And I think that that's part of what I've seen with this administration is we want to work together to make sure we identify the places where there are needs and that we are thinking about what's going to be best for the students in front of us. And that means taking care of the adults that are working with our students as well. That means recognizing how hard folks are working, but it also means putting the right resources, the right curriculum, the right supports in front of people. And so I appreciate that, Rashida. I don't know that I can add much more to what you just said. I appreciate everybody on this call. Thank you all for being here and for always being here, whether it's during the day like right now or late in the evenings. You stick by it and you push, and I appreciate your commitment to making sure our kids have the schools they deserve and they're ready to be forces of change when they leave school. So I appreciate it. Mayor, good to see you again. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
Good job. Good job today. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
So thank you. So we have in our presence the honor of the Honorable Mayor Eric Adams, who was able to join with us today. And we would like to say, we hope you're feeling better. And after meeting with us and conversating with us, that you do feel better because you get to be engaged with this wonderful set of parent leaders here. I would like to ask you a question before I give you the floor. Are you expecting members from your team to join this meeting as well?
I'm sorry, who? I didn't hear that.
I said, are you expecting members from your team to join this platform as well? Or you have
no, of the information I received that it was an invite for me. I believe the Chancellor has been on several times and he will continue to come on as time permits. But if there's a follow-up that's needed, our administration is an administration of listening, learning, and partnering. And so all you have to do is share. This is going to be a long 3.5 years, 3 years and I think 8 months. And so, this doesn't have to be the first time. I'm here to say hello and, as whatever few questions I can ask in the interim as I deal with the other issues that we're facing in the city. So I am here alone right now.
Okay, thank you. Because we just want to make sure we don't leave people out who came with you this morning. So at this time, we have our New York City Mayor, Eric Adams, with us today, and please give him your undivided attention. And I know y'all all have questions for him at the end. Mr. Mayor, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And, we have had an amazing partner at the beginning of my administration with Michael Mulgrew. I'm not sure if he's on, but I really want to say thank you to him as he, during the COVID crises that we were facing, I could not have had a better partner in our constant conversations and the UFT's commitment to really keep our schools open, keep them safe, and make sure we can provide the quality education that children deserve. I want to be as brief as possible so I can open the floor to your questions in the limited time I have now. We have several issues going on at one time in the city, and I have to, also have my attention in that direction. First, I heard some of the comments earlier. I'm not the choir. I wrote the song. And this school system has been singing off key for a long time. Growing up in South Jamaica, Queens, trying to figure out why I was sitting in the classroom every day, walking into that classroom, seeing on the back of the chair the inscriptions and notes calling me the dumb student, the D student, going through my entire K through 12 experience, believing I couldn't learn, eking out a D, graduating from Bayside High School, eventually enrolling into a community college, just to hear someone talk about, listen to a documentary on learning disability and learn that I had a learning disability. And when I got the assistance that I needed, I went from that D students to being a Dean List student. But I was lucky. And education can't be about luck. It has to be about opportunity. And I'm committed and dedicated to that opportunity for all of our young people. What does that look like? It looks like having dyslexia screening in every school. So 30% of our inmates that are in prison in this country are not dyslexic. It looks like making sure that we have a strong program that not only teaches life skills, teaches self-care, teaches emotional intelligence, communications, the skills that are needed from the future. It looks like the program I invested in Brooklyn STEAM Center, first of its kind, teaching young people a real work environment so that they can be prepared for some of the jobs that we're preparing them for. It's expanding those things that work. There's some great things that are working in the Department of Education right now, but we don't expand them. And it's about creating a safe space for our children, not just counselors, but healing circles, having our children in classrooms, learning from each other, a diverse background. Education is not merely in a sterilized environment of a building. It's creating our entire communities into an educational experience. It's about healthy foods. We feed the healthcare crisis by the food we serve our babies every day in school. We fight childhood obesity, childhood diabetes, asthma, yet every day in the cafeteria, we're feeding those unhealthy foods to our children. It's about having hydroponic, vertical farms, allowing our children to grow healthy food, brain breaks, allowing our children to know how the brain handles stress and pressure. It's about summer youth employment, 100,000 jobs for summer youth, never done before, and we are going to do that. Leaning into our foster care children so they can get the support they deserve so we don't have 23% of young people in foster care graduating from high school and only 3% graduating from college, more likely to be homeless, mental health issues, and some of the other crises. It's a holistic approach to developing the full personhood of our children. And it's not going to be easy. We are not going to help children if we are arguing and fighting as adults. Too much attention is placed on adults and not our babies. It's intervention and prevention. Prevention are the long-term things that I'm talking about. And yes, I would love to get to the day when we don't need one school safety agent at all in the schools. We will get there, but right now we are not there. And nothing personifies that more than what happened early in the Bronx, where a school safety agent was stabbed in her neck because some intruder attempted to come into the school building. My classrooms will be safe, and we will evolve to a school system where a loving, nurturing environment for our babies will be able to reach their full personhood as young people and be ready as strong adults. It's a long road to go, but I picked the best person, a chancellor, just like Eric, an African-American. We both went through the public school system. We both understand the failures and the abandonments. We both understand the challenges. This is an opportune time for us finally to start a process where we spend $38 billion a year, yet 65% of Black and brown children never reach proficiency. 80% of the inmates at Rikers Island don't have a high school diploma or equivalency diploma. We are feeding the crisis in the city, and that process starts in a failing educational system. That's the challenge I have in front of me, and that's the challenge I'm ready to meet head on. And there are many ways to do so. We're not going to all agree on everything that's done, but we don't have to be disagreeable on what we are trying to accomplish. And so I thank you for allowing me to come before you today, and I'm open to answer any questions for the moments I have left with you. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So we're going to start with District 25, Francis Gonzalez.
Hi, Mayor Adams. Thank you for coming today. I agree with everything that you said. There's two things I just want to mention. With teachers being tenured, it's very hard for them, they get a little stale at their job. So with, being tapped out with the pandemic as well as the students, what is the DOE doing to ensure that these teachers are giving the best possible education to our students when there are teachers out there who are giving low instruction quality and these kids are suffering because of it? That's my first question. The second one, being that the Black and brown students are doing the worst, I think it has a lot to do with we don't really have anything in our American history taught to us that relates to us other than anything that's negative. So I'm challenging the DOE to bring in the heroes of all our cultures into our schools. There's many. I'm a Puerto Rican American, and I have yet to learn of any Puerto Rican hero in my culture. And as an adult, I'm learning about them now. And I think that if we can relate to our heroes, we can know that we can be them. So I think that'll help our city. Thank you.
So let me peel back your questions one at a time. The first, we must create safe spaces for our teachers. What I did as borough president, I sent a group of educators and administrators, I sent them away to learn about mindfulness, yoga, and meditation. It was something that we led with in Brooklyn, and it allowed those teachers to come back and train the trainers, train other teachers and other educators. We often focus on the academic achievements of our students and our faculty, and not the mental health, the support, the emotional intelligence. That must be built into our educational experience and create safe spaces for our children. People often talk about the high suicide rates around police officers that we experience, but we need to look at the numbers of the attempted suicides of students, attempted suicide of educators, a stressful job. And if we don't create safe spaces for our educators and children, we are going to have a real crisis on our hands. And so I agree with you 100% that we must make sure children have that emotion, teachers have that emotional support that they deserve. In the area that you talked about, of seeing yourself in education, that is what our books should look like. Our books, our curriculum, our reading material, diversity, and really leaning into the diversity of our city is something that should be part of our educational experience. We have failed to do so. There's no reason we don't have books that's reflective of the various diverse groups in our city, and that should be part of the reading material, part of the educational opportunities that are available, and that is something that the Chancellor understands, and I feel 100% supportive of, and what we will accomplish.
Thank you. So now we'll have District 22.
Hello, good morning. This is Lydia Esposito for District 22. I have a question. As a person that struggles with my weight, and I appreciate the vegan meals and the initiative for that, but I also do see that a lot of children don't eat because they're not given a second option of something else. And I also would like to challenge you. I understand what you're saying, sir, but I would like to challenge you to come on a surprise day and just visit to see the food that they're eating. It's not appetizing. And I, so much money goes into the city. And I think that that's something that needs to be revamped. I 100% am agreed with your position on that we need to feed them something healthier, and that, these nutrition should be one of the main things. But there's no water unless it comes from a fountain. And most children are told, don't drink the water from the fountains. So, I mean, is there anything that we can maybe revamp in the program? Maybe not even do a vegan Friday. Some children go home, they don't eat over the weekend. That's the only hot meal that they receive. Maybe have it on a Wednesday so that we know for sure the next day they come in and they receive a hot meal. So I really would appreciate if maybe, somebody can look into that, because I've noticed that throughout all my PAs and throughout the city, when I speak to people, that is something that comes up often, is the part about the nutrition in the schools. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate your question. And it's imperative for us to get feedback. Every meal we did for Plant-Based Friday and Meatless Monday was tested by children And we need to continue to make sure that testing takes place, because food must look good, it must be good for you, but it also has to taste good. Let's be clear on that. And I had a conversation yesterday with the Rockefeller Foundation, and it's imperative for me and this administration here at City Hall. We need to really educate parents and give them the information they deserve to understand what food is doing to the health of their children. That has been the biggest secret in government. Food is poisoning our children every day in the schools. And when I say poisoning, I mean it's unhealthy. It is unhealthy. When you are serving children over-processed sugar, oil, food that is impacting on their diabetes, childhood diabetes, impacting on their obesity, bad eating habits that follows them throughout their lives. The goal we must do, not only in academic, but those life skills that our babies are learning inside their schools, is something that should follow them throughout their entire lifespan. When I started looking into this after my late stage of diabetes, I couldn't believe the role that food played in that. And I am committed to make sure that our students have good tasting, healthy, nutritionally balanced food that they deserve, not just caloric consumption. We're not just trying to fill their stomachs. We want to fill their stomachs with the nutrition they need so they can grow up to be productive, healthy adults. And listen, there was a reason Mother used to say, boy, eat your broccoli. Our moms had the common sense that many of us ignored. It's not about having a school system that's feeding our children fast food, junk food, and unhealthy food. That is unacceptable. I'm not only focusing on academics, I'm focusing on the development of the fullness of our children, giving them the mental health support they need, the physical support they need, and the academic support they need so they can be sound adults for the future.
Thank you. We're now going to have Staten Island. Selena, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Welcome, Mayor Adams. We appreciate you being here and being part of the table so we can uplift our voice. What I was so glad that you shared, I appreciate you sharing out your story to explain, how you at your time of growing up didn't understand why you was getting D's and your education of what is that the best it should have been. And so I was glad to hear you talk about foster children in foster care. And that's always been something that I want my passion for, because I know the GET program is very important. I had children that was in the GET, but my concern is that for students that could be A students or B students, if you're in foster care or you're in student in temporary housing or you're passing an area that's unsafe, it's hard to do your best in school. So it's so important to me that you bring that up, because I believe in education. I'm a college grad myself, but I want to uplift students are struggling, that are truly struggling, and going home, they're hungry, like you said, for the weekend just now, someone just mentioned, or dealing with parents that have all type of condition, whether they have a drug condition, whether they have incarcerated. It's so important that they don't be forgotten, and we only just focus on academic, like you said, the social, emotional, everything to bring a child where they can be their best self and the whole child. So it's so important, and it's not really a question. I just want to say thank you that you're going to look at the whole child and understand that it's not just about academics for children. It's about, like you said, their diet, social emotional learning, even the welfare of their parents. Because how can a child learn or feel comfortable if they worrying about their parent? I know when I was sick with COVID, my son was just so distraught. He didn't know what was going on, So I just really want the DOE to definitely understand that, look at the whole child, and also to realize that parents, myself, definitely I can speak for myself, we are so tired of coming to the table and hearing the decisions that's been made. We want to be at the table making the decision. I feel a lot of times most times I'm going to say that DOE should come to us and say, what do you need for us to do? And stop always coming to us, this is what we're doing. My time has elapsed, but just thank you for being here and hearing me out.
And that's
Thank you, Selena.
comment that you made, and not only did I hear you, I felt you. I felt your compassion and commitment. Those are the real stories that David and I are leaning into. We didn't come to the place of the gifted and talented program based on our philosophies. We listened to the parents. And I know there is a lack of trust. And sometimes that trust that we don't feel is there, we carry it into new relationships. It's almost like you had a bad marriage and now you have a new marriage and you're thinking about all of the pains of those previous relationships. I'm saying, let's start anew. We want to communicate with you. And we're not going to always agree, because you know and I know if you put 100 parents in the room together, you're not coming out with 100% consensus. That is just not possible. I don't agree with myself all the time. So how am I going to agree with everyone else all the time? But we should be in a place of communication. And what I learned when I reflected on all of the pain I'm seeing every day, the yelling, the screaming, the anger, and I started to reflect on it during my morning meditation, and something came to me. When were we ever taught to communicate? I never took a course in elementary school on how to be a deep listener, to first seek to understand so I could be understood. I never was told that in middle school. I never was told that in high school. I was not told that in college. All I knew throughout my entire life was to wait for someone to finish a sentence so I can tell them how wrong they are. If we don't learn the common basic skills of communication so that I can hear you and learn from you, then I'm never going to evolve from the place that I am in. I talk like I know, but I listen like I don't know. That's the only way I'm going to learn. And so I know the drama that children are sitting in the classroom. Half my day in school was not focusing on the fact that I was not learning only. It was focused on the fact that I had that big garbage bag full of clothing that my mom gave us every day because she thought we were going to be thrown out by the marshals. So I was thinking in my head, how am I not going to be embarrassed when that sheriff's truck is there to throw us out? I sat down with a group of children in public housing in Brooklyn who all they wanted is to have a washing machine in their school, because many of them were missing classes because they did not have clean clothing. So if we only believe that we're supposed to focus on the academic needs of a child, then we are failing right away. The goal of the Department of Education is to remove every barrier that impacts the life of a child. That means finding out if they're living in a domestic violence situation, finding out if they're in a foster care, a homeless shelter, finding out if they need clean clothing, finding out if they need food over the weekend, finding out if they're dealing with mental health issues. You have to remove the barriers to education to allow children to sit down and be receptive to being educated. We've never done that before, and that is what we're going to do. We are barriers removers, because I had those barriers in my life.
Thank you. I'm going to read a comment from the chat, and then one more question I think you have time for will be from Brooklyn High Schools. So District 9, Gladys put in the chat in regards to the healthy food, which is a great idea. But in reality, unhealthy foods, processed foods, fast food is cheaper than healthy foods. We cannot change the habits in schools if they're not sustainable in the household. So we need to make sure that the healthier foods are available and accessible to all households, because it's true, those unhealthy foods are much cheaper than the healthy foods. You can make, if you would like to make a comment to that, but then I'll have Ms. Green.
You're 100% correct. You're 100% correct. But I also know this, that we're not going to change the problem if we don't start taking a step towards changing the problem. And so that means getting rid of this ridiculous rule that says NYCHA facilities can't have green markets on their grounds. That means help and supplementing the cost of having access to healthy food, re-examining our food pantries for those who are in need, so that they can have healthy food at those food pantries. Think about this for a moment. You're diabetic, you have heart issues, high blood pressure, you're dealing with an economic challenge. You have to go to the city because that's your only option to get food to feed your family. And the food they're feeding you is food that feeds your healthcare crises. They're giving you over-processed, salt-filled cheese. They're giving you canned meat. They're giving you chicken McNuggets. The same problems that feed your healthcare crisis, the city is giving to you, and you don't have any other options. So we have to make sure the pathway that feeds families in cities must be the same pathway that our children are receiving healthy foods in schools. So you are dead right that we need to make sure that there's a holistic approach to uplifting families so that children can remove the barriers when they are inside classrooms.
Thank you. So we're going to have Brooklyn High Schools now. Ms. Green, Celia, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Welcome, Mayor Adams, from the constituency of the Brooklyn High Schools, the Borough High Schools President's Council of Brooklyn. Thank you for being here. I have two quick questions. One is about the elevated level of violence that's been happening in New York City schools and what's going to be done about that. And the other one is, there are a lot of programs and offerings that already exist within New York City DOE. Many of them are great. However, unless you know they exist, the information is not readily shared. Some of the examples I can think of that come to mind is District 75 has inclusion classes. Two of my children have benefited greatly from that. And also there is such a thing as intensive day treatment classes for children who are in crisis currently and just need that extra help in the meantime until they can be stabilized and so on. But parents don't know it exists, and looking for a juvenile bed when your child has mental health issues is really hard, but the DOE, it does exist within the DOE. There are spaces available. I want to know, how are we going to communicate some of these things out to other parents? And are you willing, you and the Chancellor, willing to come and see some of the things that do exist so that we can better have parents get this information out to the masses, so to speak?
Thank you, sister. So let me break that into pieces because you had two questions. Number one, public safety. Public safety is a prerequisite to prosperity and public safety and justice. They go together, and I'm clear on that. And I understand we don't need to turn our schools into fortress. Listen, I was arrested as a child, beat by police officers, went into the police department, understood how important it is to be safe in schools and what we must do. And there's a combination. And, oftentimes we hear about folks saying, listen, we don't know police, we don't need police in schools. School safety agents are not police officers. They provide a service. And I take my hat off to those school safety agents who are predominantly Black and brown and predominantly women. And some of those things, those school safety agents goes beyond their scope of their duties. In the Bronx, I went to a school where school safety agents are collecting clothes for children, canned goods. They interact with those children. We need to pay them better. We need to treat them better. And we need to give them crisis management skills and other skills that I believe can help and enhance their abilities. I love those women and men that are assigned to protecting our babies every day in school. We had a young 16-year-old that was shot in the Bronx the other day as she was leaving school. We need proper, tender, loving, caring school safety agents in our schools. And I'm not going to ever succumb to the fact that we cannot make sure that our schools are receiving the support and safety that they deserve. Scaling up programs. You are 100% right. We went out to the Chancellor went out to Staten Island to look at a dyslexia educational school. An amazing program that's taking place out there. We should be talking about it citywide. I traveled to some schools throughout the city that I am saying to myself, these are amazing programs that these principals and teachers and volunteers are doing every day. Why aren't we scaling this up into other schools? We exist in silos in the Department of Education. A great program is just in that school instead of duplicating the school. Bedford Academy, Eagle Academy, some of these other great programs that we're seeing throughout this entire school system. So what I need your help in the body of this group to help me with, tell the chancellor, share with me, how do we do a better job in getting on the ground and getting these programs knowledgeable to parents? Come up with the solutions for us, because we're not the experts in all things. We want you to say, for those of us who are on the ground, here are some ways we believe this information could get to parents better. That's what we want to learn from all of our experts and those who are a part of these parent groups. What has been missing from parent engagement are the parents. So give us the advice, give us the information from your view, not from my view as the mayor. My son is 26 years old. It's been a long time since I went to a PTA meeting. Those of you who are on the ground, students in the system, let us hear your thoughts and ideas on how we can communicate on some of these great programs and then duplicate them in many schools that are not having the benefit of these programs. We're partners in this. I'm committed to this. For the next 4 years of my life, my legacy is creating a safe city where we're raising healthy children and families. If we don't get education right, that's the feeder of the crisis we're facing. Archbishop Desmond Tutu has a quote that I live by. We spend a lifetime pulling people out of the river. No one goes upstream and prevent them from falling in the first place. The first step of children falling in the river is in the Department of Education. It's time to take our city and our school system upstream. They can't continue to fall into the river and pulling them out downstream in jail, downstream in crime, downstream in violence, downstream in unemployment, downstream in mental health issues. We have a downstream mindset, but you have an upstream mayor. And I'm taking my city and my children and my families upstream.
Mayor, can we squeeze it?
Thank you.
Can we squeeze? Thank you, Celia. Can we squeeze in one more question?
Yes, you can.
Okay, so District 13, you haven't spoken. Well, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, Mayor Eric Adams. Appreciate all what you've been speaking on and about us parents being the first and being stakeholders. My main question is that we hear this over and over from our politicians, from our mayors, ever since Bloomberg put our schools in a silo, separated us all because we were community school districts. We were a community. I was a part of one of the schools that you just talked to as a parent leader, sat there with Bedford Academy when we built it from the ground up. It's what resources are you willing to provide to us as parents as into building this parent involvement, a stronger parent involvement? We hear it, we get it. We as parent leaders get up in there in the trenches at every time. But what we don't have is the resources in the schools, good leadership, administration that supports parent involvement. I remember when you were the borough president, you said our schools are community schools and they don't belong to administration. It don't belong to the DO. It belongs to the community. I would love to see that happening all over the city, but I would like to see the resources being provided in it and people keeping their word to it. Thank you.
Well, brother, listen, if you want to know the type of mayor I'm going to be, ask the question, what type of man I have been. I put over $150 million into my school through my capital projects and dollars. Before giving money to anything else, I started with first the money goes to the school. When parents came to me and said they wanted access to school buildings after hours, 7 to 3, we tell our children welcome. 3 p.m. we say get out and don't come back. I went to the mayor at the time and we created extended use programs where we paid for all of the fees that volunteer groups, students, parents groups, so they can utilize the school systems, the buildings in a safe way. Parent involvement, that's my forte. Putting the resources in the school. There's not a principal in Brooklyn that would tell you that Eric was not keen on putting those resources right into the school. Everything from technology to new methods of learning. My educators knew I was a parent focused and centered borough president. And now I'm scaling that up to citywide. And it started with picking the right chancellor. Remember what I said? With a first partnership of a mayor and chancellor coming from the New York City public school system. One of them happens to be dyslexic. Another one was in a gifted and talented program. They're the perfect combination of how we can start the process of turning this school around from the generational denials. This did not start in January. It didn't start 8 years ago. We've seen generational inequalities in our school system. And so as we start our fourth month in office, we did not put on a cape. There's no S on my chest. I'm not walking on water, and I'm not going to part water. I am going to do the best I can based on the history of understanding the betrayals in education, based on the inequalities that we've witnessed in this city for generations, based on speaking with my parents and understanding that there's a lack of trust. I got that. But it's time for us to put that pain behind us and start moving our educational system in the right direction. Those who want to stay in the denials and the betrayal of the past, there's nothing I can do about that. I became mayor January 1st, 2022. I want to be judged when my 4 years are over. And promise made, it's going to be a promise kept. That's just who I am as a person.
Awesome, Mayor Adams. Before you leave, I want this talk because I know you promised it will be, this is not just the first and last conversations that we're going to have, but the health and safety, physical, mental, social, emotional needs to be, we need to come collectively now, just on you, not just the chancellor, but all stakeholders to come up with a solution to deal with the rise of the needs right now. We need to come with solutions right now. We can't wait for school safety to be fully enforced. We need to have a plan not to let it escalate even further than it has been in those areas. So I'm asking everyone who's here today on this platform, everyone is listening, please send in recommendations, policy that we can do right now. School safety is not the only solution to physical safety. You know, this is a community thing. So we're asking everyone to give their input. There's other solutions to help fit this. And part of it is tied to the social and emotional needs that is occurring with our students, because you know, we were still in a pandemic technically, but when we were under quarantine, you know, everyone didn't fare as well. And that includes adults. So we need to address these issues. And they are part of the problem that we are trying to solve as well. So that social emotional piece, that mental state. So I'm asking everyone, and we are very happy and very pleased that you was willing to take time and meet with us. And again, we're looking for forward conversations with you. And we hope that you get to your 100% feeling better. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate being here with you. I look forward to furthering the conversation. And once somebody said in the notes that Brooklyn is not the whole city, it's the whole city. Using an example of a borough that I love is not saying we're going to ignore any borough. You know, I spend more time on Staten Island and Bronx than any mayor you have ever witnessed. Trust me, I'm on the ground. I'm not going to lead this city from the rear. I'm going to lead this city from the front. And it's time for you to have a mayor that's a front leading mayor. Thank you very much. Appreciate all of you. Take care.
Bye, Mayor Adams. So at this time, I know, Rashida, you had your hands up. Do you want to make a comment or statement at this time? You're good?
No, well, no. I'm like, wait, what I had to say? It was definitely something that he said. So no, thank you. I think we all know that exactly what you said, Shirley. School safety agents are not the end all be all. And I just want to say on this public space with all of my peers here is that the school safety agents that we love, the ones that we love, that we're like, oh, I love my school safety agent, I love my school safety, my SSA. The ones that we love are the ones who do indeed go above and beyond their duty. And so the mayor said it best, is like, they go above and beyond their duty, but that's the key. It's not their duty. It's not their true roles or responsibilities to do all of the things that they do that make us love them, right? So then that's why we are in these discussions where we talk about, we need folks in there who are trained, to do the things that we love and they love and our children love, to keep them safe. And so the transformation comes from that when we start, we'll put things in writing, as you said, to submit it. But when we start to think about like training and professional development, it's the policing of it's not like, okay, we don't want police in our school. It's the policing of, and then I know I'm preaching to the choir with you, like we know. And so, but folks got to understand, I don't want everyone to always just be like, oh, you're against, SSAs. I'm not against SSAs. It's the culture. It's the system. So that's what I would love to continue the discussions with my peers, with my fellow parent leaders, and understand what that all means. And we could work together to get a better, safer space for our children, staff, and our parents in our schools.
Well, thank you so much. Anybody else want to make a comment before I share my screen again? Okay, so I'm going to share our screen again. So we're looking forward for more time with our mayor. Our next Chancellor Parent Advisory Council meeting is Thursday, May 12th. We are welcoming spring. I believe the 20th is the first day of spring. We're asking everybody, those who celebrate Passover, happy Passover, happy Easter. Sunday is Easter. Those who celebrate Ramadan, happy Ramadan to everybody. Again, I want the warm weather to come and stay. So we are definitely welcoming spring. And at this time, I would like, barring any concerns or questions at this time that anyone may have, I would like someone to make a motion so we can adjourn this meeting that we had today. Ms. Green?
I motion that we adjourn this meeting until May 12th.
Thank you. Can we get a second?
Second.
And that's Bronx High Schools. Thank you. So thank you for everybody taking the time out and coming and having this first really robust conversations. Please take these conversations back to your president's councils and in turn back to your PA, PTAs, so we can have those real life solutions that we need for our safety of our children and academics, because this is why what we are here is all about the children, and we want our children to feel safe in the schools. We want them to feel welcomed in their schools, and that their cultures and their ethnicity and their heritage is appreciated and they are part of their school communities. So thank you, everyone, and that will be the end. Have a good weekend.
Enjoy your spring break, everyone.
Same to you. Have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy spring break.
Bye-bye.